What if dogs were like sheep? I promise that question's gonna make sense by the end of this video, but for now, buckle up, because we're gonna take a look at some of the most interesting extinct dog breeds you've probably never heard of before. Okay, here we go. Now, you probably know of several dog varieties that were bred specifically for hunting, but I doubt you have heard of any that were quite as incredible as this one. Named after the Tahltan peoples, one of the indigenous nations of Canada, the Tahltan Bear Dog was primarily used for hunting a specific kind of animal. You'll never guess which one. But other animals were on the list as well, including moose, rabbit, porcupine, lynx, grouse, and this thing, which Google insists is pronounced ptarmigan.
Ptarmigan.
I don't trust you, internet lady. When tracking prey, it was common practice for hunters to carry their bear dogs in sacks to conserve their energy. If a bear was encountered, the dogs would be let loose. Working in packs, they would harass the animal from multiple angles while the hunters positioned themselves for the kill. Let's put this into perspective. The average male grizzly weighs between 200 and 300 kilograms. That's between 441 to 661 pounds for those of you who are too cool for metric. They can have over 1,000 psi of lifting force and enough bite strength to crush a bowling ball. And these hunters were taking them down with the help of a dog that weighed less than my dachshund. You would literally wet yourself and run away. That's right, the Tahltan Bear Dog typically weighed between 4.5 to 8 kilograms, or about 9.9 to 17.6 pounds if you want to be weird about it. Most experts agree that this dog went extinct sometime around the 1970s to 1980s, which makes them somehow less popular than fanny packs, which means that humanity has a lot to answer for. The disappearance can be attributed to a number of different factors. The most common argument seems to be that the introduction of firearms made owning a bear dog for hunting unnecessary. This, among other things, is what led to the Tahltan Bear Dog slowly fading away over time. So this dog completely disappeared, kinda like what I did after I said all those slanderous things about the Dutch. They're here. When we hear the word sheepdog, we typically think of these things, dogs bred for herding sheep. But what if I told you that there was a breed that might be more suited for this name? Over 100 years ago, a very special variety of dog was bred and kept by the Salish people. The so-called Salish Woolly Dog was small, with features including prick ears, a curled tail, a fox-like face, and a thick coat of long, usually white hair. The Coast Salish people were quite fond of this breed, as this dog's hair provided a free and easily accessible source of wool for weaving blankets and clothing. Other sources of wool, such as mountain goats, were more difficult to come by, as obtaining their coats would require journeying up to the mountains to hunt the goats or trading with those who lived in the inland areas where the goats shed their wool in the spring. It was not uncommon for coastal people to keep woolly dogs on isolated islands to separate them from other breeds, returning once every autumn to shear them. But the people who lived near the Puget Sound, located here, would keep their dogs in the same plank houses that they lived in. The Salish Woolly Dog was around for a very long time. The oldest remains of this breed that have ever been found are estimated to be 4,000 years old. And 4,000 years is a long time. That's like more than 50 years. And why did this cute little pup become extinct? Well, similarly to our previous story, because they weren't needed anymore. When European settlers began selling sheep wool blankets to the locals in the early 19th century, there was no longer any particular use for these woolly dogs, since sheep wool can be harvested and processed more quickly. This was the beginning of the decline of the breed, with the last surviving dog reportedly dying in 1940. You see that doggy up there? The one running on the wheel? That is a Turnspit Dog. This little canine was bred and raised specifically to help cook that piece of meat by running on a wheel which controls the rotation of the roasting spit. Hence the name Turnspit. If you don't like the name Turnspit, this breed also goes by kitchen dog, or if you're feeling particularly pretentious, you can use the Latin name Vernapater cur, which means dog that turns the wheel. This dog is said to have been an essential part of every large British kitchen in the 16th century. Roasted meat, such as beef and pork, were very popular among the British populace even as far back as medieval times. The biggest challenge with this is that preparing meat over an open flame requires constant turning of the spit. Bear in mind that when I say spit, I'm talking about the rod you use to roast meat over a fire, and not the Sardar Patel Institute of Technology. Now previously, low-ranking kitchen staff, usually young boys, would be given the task of turning the spits themselves. This job required turning an iron rod by hand for hours on end with no protection from the flames other than a bale of wet hay standing between the cook and the fireplace. Blisters were a common occurrence. Giving this task to a dog running on a wheel made things considerably safer and less labor-intensive. For the humans, that is. Turnspit dogs are made to run on a wheel that was typically made of wood and mounted high on a wall, far from the fire to ensure that the dog did not overheat or faint. This might seem like a kind consideration, but be under no illusion. The conditions that these dogs were kept in were far from kind. These dogs were subjected to a number of cruelties. Just as an example, it was not unheard of for handlers to throw a glowing coal into the wheel to train the dog to run faster. By the 1850s, these doggy sous chefs were employed in a few American kitchens as well as the British ones. At this time, a man by the name of Henry Bergh made some very public statements condemning the way that these dogs were treated in the Manhattan hotels they worked in. This, among other things, is what eventually led to Bergh founding the ASPCA, or the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. It's unclear whether or not this played a major role in the dog's extinction, but either way, we can say that there was at least one good thing that came from this awful situation. If you want to know what these dogs actually look like, the last remaining Turnspit dog, named Whiskey, is stuffed in a display case owned by the museum in a Welsh town called this. Obviously it's not alive, or it wouldn't be in this video. You should be able to find the image online, but I can't show it to you for copyright reasons. Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who watched my last video, and to everyone who watched this video too. Thank you. Truly, the support is incredible. And yeah, if you want to find out more about these dogs, then as always, I have linked some extra sources in the description. And be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and pet a dog next time you see one. Cheers.